Business Builder Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Gates, aka Brother Juice. Today, I have in the studio with me my good friend, we'll go back a couple years, Mr. Ethan Bickley from the Blue Collar Recruiter, which is it's a cool name.
Thanks,
I mean,
man.
it is a catchy name, dude, as far as like employment services. But that's what you do. You recruit people for jobs and place them in jobs, correct?
Right.
And you do this for the employer side. Is that right?
Well, for both sides, really, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, give us a breakdown, man. Explain kind of what that is.
Well, I guess I'll start with, you mentioned that I do it from the employer side, but really, what I always like to say is I really have to play like both sides of the fence.
That's right, yeah. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah, a little bit, making sure that, I'm not putting in a job candidate in an unfavorable situation.
Right.
I want to make sure that, they're going to be well taken care of, but then, the business or the company, the client is paying me. So clearly I have to look out for their best interests as far as who the candidate is as well.
But that's like it's kind of like a tightrope walk for you then.
I mean, it can be, yeah. And especially because, I think a lot of recruiters fall into this trap of providing the candidate that they like.
Yeah.
Versus the candidate that
is best for the
best
company.
For the employer.
So let me ask you this, right? Because we're both in the service. You were in the Army,
right?
And I was in the Navy, and we have both dealt with military recruiters. So do you think a military recruiter would be good for this job?
No.
that's what I thought you would go.
I think because
that's in my head. I'm thinking, no, this is bad.
But it's a completely different circumstance, right? I mean, the military generally maybe is looking for someone that's just breathing. And
they're just like
warm bodies.
We need people. We got a quota, man.
We need warm bodies to fill this or whatever, and like I have to find, certain specific skill sets of people. So I think that maybe in some instances they would do well, but I think also,
oh man,
maybe not.
Some of those dudes are slick, man.
Oh, everyone's got their stories, right?
Oh, they're so slick. I won't say the guy's name, but he was like famous in my high school. Everybody's like, man, you talk to that dude? And I was like, no, I don't want to talk to that guy.
Who, the recruiter?
Yeah.
Was the famous guy?
Yeah, because like his name, just his name,
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not going to say his name, because he might still be out there.
Oh, probably. I'm sure he's somewhere, right?
Dude, he's probably, I think he's probably moved on. But anyway, so I like to ask people, how'd you get here? Like, what's the origin story? Now, you haven't been here for too long, right? But, like, coming from all the stuff that you've done before this, like, why did you settle here? Like,
in Wilmington?
No, not in Wilmington. Like, at this job, the recruiter job here. Why not something else? Because you have varied experience, you have varied background. I know you've worked with startups. I know you work with veteran business entities. You know what I mean? So what was it that got you here, and that like kind of was like, I want to be here?
So, well, I went for a job. I've always wanted to open my own business, and never really took the steps or, took action to do it.
Yeah.
And anyways, I went through this job interview, and the reason why I didn't get hired for the job was just a really ridiculous reason. So anyways, I got so fed up with because of that, then I finally said that, all right, I'm going to do this. Finally, I'm going to start my own business. And
so it's out of sheer frustration and
sheer frustration of like somebody else being in control of my stuff.
Yeah.
And a bit of anger, actually, probably.
Yeah.
Too. But anyway.
Well, anger is a gift because it gives us the energy and the drive to be like, you know what? I'll show you guys.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to keep me.
Yeah. There's, but I don't want to say anger. I don't think
anger's
that's
good,
really
man.
A positive thing. But
if you got to funnel it, you got to channel it, right?
Yeah. And so, but the rest of it kind of was just like, God and perchance, I would say, where, I had this experience with this job interview that went unfavorably, didn't go my way, and then I just happened to be called by a franchisor or a director of operations for the franchise, the Blue Collar Recruiter.
Yeah.
And
so they like recruited you.
They recruited me. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's true. And the guy the guy that recruited me was in the Navy as well. So, anyways.
See, these Navy recruiters, man, is slick tongue bastards.
Do not listen to them.
You know what? Just so you know, I don't know. So in the military loves their acronyms, right? Do you ever heard what Navy stands for? The acronym for Navy?
Please
Never again volunteer yourself. I don't know what it is for Army.
That's a good one. Yeah. No, there's all kinds. Yeah. So, to answer your question though. So anyways, I had met the same exact recruiter like a year ago in person at a veteran, it was at the Wilmington Convention Center. It was,
Okay,
it was like
one of those big
it was
events.
called Vet Expo, I think is what it was
Okay.
called. Basically what some people in the local Wilmington veteran business community did was they brought in a bunch of franchisors to meet the veteran population in Wilmington or
Right.
non-veteran. I think it was open to everyone actually, but it was like geared towards
I
veterans.
think you told me about that, but I couldn't go.
I probably did.
Yeah.
It was one of the many times you turned me down, but it's okay.
Well, dude, I work, man. You know,
I know,
I'm spinning
I know,
plates.
I know. I'm
I'm
just
out there
messing.
hustling.
I know. So anyways, that guy, Jim, his name's Jim Nichols. So I just had this bad experience with a job interview. And then Jim Nichols I must have just come down on his lead list. He was
Yeah.
just making
He was just,
making his sales calls.
Yeah.
And he talked to me right at the right time. He's like, "You ready?" He's like, "You've been thinking about opening up your own business?" Like the week after
like,
I'd gone through
"Yes,
this
I
interview,
have,
and I was
actually."
like, "Absolutely." And so I did some research on it a little bit. You know, I got I have a mentor that spent like 8 years in the recruiting industry or something like that, and he knows about my mentor knows about franchises as well. And I don't know how many people out there have ever thought about opening a franchise, but it's a very regulated
yeah, there's pros
industry.
and cons. Yeah.
Yeah, and even though it's very regulated, there's also some like potential problems you can get involved with, and you got to whenever you buy a franchise, you got to send them a bunch of money, and so I wanted to make sure that I wasn't setting myself up for failure. So I got my mentor involved, and had him vet these guys a little bit, and we had a couple of Zoom calls, and he was like, if you want to do this, he's like, I don't see any problem with this. Looks like they're all on the up and up, and this, that, and the other. And so, yeah, I opened up a business line of credit through Marine Federal Credit Union, and did a crazy thing and sent these guys a check for like $20-some thousand and kicked this thing off. Started my LLC, in the state of North Carolina, and that was part of one of the requirements. And yeah. And so 6 months later, here I am. My official launch date was June 26th.
Fantastic, bro. Fantastic. So it may be a little bit early in this particular journey for this, but overcoming challenges, like what was one of the biggest ones you faced and how did you overcome it? And I would be guessing that might be just capital.
Yeah, that's what they say is the number one reason that businesses fail is as they run out of working capital. You got to keep the lights on, right? And so I had buffered that a little bit because I knew it was going to take a minute to build a client base, and I knew that it was going to take a minute. I had some funds that were available to take care of that for a little while. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's like definitely I would say, and I think it's just whatever business you open is gaining clients and client acquisition.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest, most difficult thing for anyone.
Have you solved that Rubik's Cube yet?
Yeah, for the most part, I think so. But I think also that for me and my business model, it's like, I had a great construction company as a client locally here in Wilmington, and they needed, 3 guys, right? Or 3 workers, guys, girls, whatever. And I usually got the term guys.
Yeah. We're just going to use that as
a gender neutral.
Yeah, don't come for us.
So anyways, I digress. But so they needed 3 guys, and then they hired the 3 guys, and they're probably going to be good for a little while until their operation tempo gets
Either
even
picks up
larger.
or start expanding. Yeah.
So
Well, that's good because then they're going to come back to you.
hopefully they will. They should. I think I did a really good job for them. I know that they were really pleased, and it was interesting because they were my first client, really. they were my first client that I really found like on my own. And, but it was interesting to see that they enjoyed like the work that I did for them. You know? That was one of the rewarding things that I realized is, this guy's like the manager of this local construction company, commercial side of the house, and like he didn't want to do this hiring.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
He's got
Well,
go ahead.
And then that guy knows, because if you've ever had to hire people, it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Because you got to go through you got to talk to people. So if you're a manager, that's taking time out of your day to talk to somebody who may or may not work out.
Yeah.
Right. And time is money. And then let's say you do all this stuff, and then you put time into training them. And then 2-3 months down the road, then they quit for whatever reason, and they're just not a good fit, or you have to fire them. You've wasted all that time and investment on that person. And so, as a manager, it depends. If you can afford the expense of it, then it's like, I think it's a no-brainer, because I don't want to have to do all that stuff.
Right.
So it's literally outsourcing your hiring, but then I really need to know you to make sure that you're going to do me right with people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It puts you in a precarious position. Because you're taking a load off of the employer side, you're getting work for the person who you're bringing into them, but then both parties have to be satisfied with you.
Absolutely.
In order for you to grow your reputation amongst these people. So it's like, that's kind of like, I don't know, that's a razor's edge to walk, I think. Yeah,
a little bit. It is a little bit. There are a lot of razor's edge actually involved in this kind of thing, because one of the other things I've learned is, just because somebody's resume sucks, I look at a resume on Indeed and it's like, doesn't have anything on there. It might have like, it's, way below standard, but then I got to call the person really to find out what exactly they're doing. They applied for that position. Yeah. For some reason.
But so you're doing the interview stuff.
Yeah, so that's that was what I was going to try and allude to this original point, was that for like a manager or leader or business owner or whatever, myself included, is I want to minimize the amount of time I waste on things.
Yeah.
And it's like, if like for my client, this particular client I'm talking about right now, he's got much more important things to do than read through 100 resumes to find this person.
And so then your job becomes, as you said, it's time management and efficiency management. You're like, man, I can't spend 6 hours on this.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You've got to be able to kind of develop a system to sift out the good ones.
Yeah. And the other part of that is, if I don't find the candidate fast enough, my candidate's out there. Yeah. Somewhere. I've got to find it. And if I don't find them fast enough, they're going to find another job.
You know what? That process is much like this process of because I'm interviewing.
Absolutely.
Right? So you have to get to the good meaty chunks as quickly as you can. So it's about effective and efficient questions, I think. It's almost lawyer-like in a sense, because it's like leading questions.
Oh yeah.
Which, if you've ever been on the end of an interrogation from whatever entity, it could be lawyers, but it could be somebody else, right? It's like
right.
Intelligence officers,
right? No.
Law enforcement. It's like.
Well, and that was something I didn't even consider.
Yeah, why would you? You know why? Because the recruiter didn't tell you.
That's right. Yeah, no, that's true. Which is funny, because I'm like super upfront with everything, very transparent when I'm talking to candidates with everything. So, but the interesting part about that is the interrogation side is that I was military police in the Army.
Yeah, I was like, we're going to get to that.
And I didn't even.
You didn't even put the two together.
Didn't even make the connection until I started doing it.
Yeah, that's what we do here. We find those connections.
That's right.
But then I'm sure you were like talking to somebody and you're like, man, I'm using the same stuff that they taught me at MP school.
Yeah, and I didn't even mean to. That was the thing. It was just started like when I first started giving interviews to candidates, that's when I found out. I was like, this is so crazy. This is exactly what I did in the military.
I have a question. Right. What's the difference between an interview and an interrogation?
Oh, I feel
like there's a line.
I feel like I want to Google the definition now.
Well, because when police are talking to you, they say, "Well, I'm conducting an interview," right? when you're in the box, right? And they're like, so where were you on the, July 20th? Like, that's an interrogation. I think there's like a change of circumstance, and definitely there's an intention behind interrogation versus there's both intentions, right? Because you're trying to get information. But either way, it's like one has a really negative connotation depending on what seat you're in.
Yeah, and I wonder now, is interview just a nicer way of saying an interrogation?
I think so.
Are they all interrogations? But,
yes, they're all.
But just depending
That's
on
what I'm thinking.
The method of questioning, maybe.
Yeah.
Is,
or what side of the table you're on.
And what side of the table you're on. Yeah,
because like if I'm talking to you and I'm asking questions, I'm an interviewer. But if I'm on the other side of the table getting asked questions, I'm like, kind of feels like an interrogation.
That's right.
Be careful, people. See, these are things you learn here, right? You won't find this elsewhere.
But I think like waterboarding.
Yeah, that's just torture.
I think that would be a little different. I think that's the next level, right?
That's like aggressive interrogation. What the Jedi called it, aggressive negotiations.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
That's what Anakin said is like aggressive negotiations. What do you think? And it's again, like you're new to this, but you're not new to entrepreneurship. You're not new to the hustle, the grind, right? Because since I've known you, that's all you've done. Right? And you've known me the whole time. I'm a gym operator, and now I do this too. So it's like we're both kind of hustlers and get out and grind. But do you think you have reached a turning point with this enterprise to where it's like, hey, I can create, or have already got to the point where this is a sustainable income source for the kind of lifestyle that I want? Has that come up yet, or do you? And if it hasn't, is it there? Like, can you see it?
Yeah, well, I think it's always. I think because of the way it works. Now I'm just guessing, right? Because I don't really know. You never really know what's going to happen. But my point of going back to that, where the grind, I don't think it ever really stops in this business, because it's like that one company, like they hired 3 people, and I'm of course going to be open to working for them again. But I think that the way just the business world works is a lot of the time it takes a lot of time. Most of the time it takes a lot of time for things to happen. Mm-hmm. So for like this client to get to this, to grow enough for me to hire candidate number 4, 5, and 6 after hiring 1, 2, and 3, that could be 6 months or a year. Right. I mean, maybe it'll be a month, who knows? But my point is that because once I meet those obligations of my client, like they're good for a little while.
Yeah.
So then it kind of just the grind just kind of starts back over.
Well, the grind for you then is I think locating those businesses who are experiencing growth. That's going to be like the people, kind of like the people we know we're talking about here recently, right? They're experiencing growth, and it's that growing pain of we need people, but how do we go about acquiring that, So maybe somebody's ready and maybe they're not. Maybe they want to, but maybe the price tag scares them or whatever. And it's like you have to, I think for you, the more of those kind of up and coming businesses who are like, and it doesn't have to be small, it could be even be at a size, it could be right. But it's almost like you need a fishing line in each of those pools.
Yeah.
And so you can keep your finger on the pulse. And not just, I'm not talking about just contacts in different companies. I'm talking to, like area-wide, industry-wide. I don't know, it's just me just talking out loud here, but what do you think of that? I mean, because people who, let's put it this way, different question. How do you find where your leads are?
Well, so one method I use is I just find out who's hiring.
Yeah.
And then I just call that lead, and I'm like,
straight up cold call.
Yeah, just call them and say, what are you guys doing? Like, how are you meeting these needs? Or find out like what their process looks like. Have they used a recruiter before?
What do you get? So what's the percentage of your cold calls? Like when you say, hey, have you used a recruiter before? What's the percentage of yes or no?
Probably
Or does
Well-
does it depend on like the size of the business?
Yeah, it does. Larger businesses have like their own internal recruiting teams, and then usually like a smaller business will outsource, generally speaking. But I don't know. I think a lot of people have. I think a lot of people. I think well, there are so many recruiters out there,
Right.
that I think that a lot of people have had negative experiences with them before.
Yeah.
So that's always like an objection. There's a real thing about it's really well, and all business really is all relational based and building relationships and
Yep.
getting someone, because the other part of this whole thing is that it's incredibly important, right? It's important to me because it generates my life, and then but it's also incredibly important for the employer, because just they got to find the right person.
They need people.
They need the right person. They need a good person. You're right. An ethical person, a hard worker.
To be fair, though, I mean, you're there to find them somebody and find them the most qualified candidate you can find, right? But you can't guarantee this is going to be perfect fit,
absolutely.
you know what I mean? So it's like if they come back and there's like backlash on you. Now, granted, if you like, it'd be different if you purposely mislead them, and I'm sure there's a lot of that going out there. I'm sure there's like people just like, I'm just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, right? But if you go above and beyond, you go out of your way and you develop a relationship with that hiring personnel or whatever on the other side, then as long as there's some trust there and you're like, hey man, and you're upfront with them, I think it would be difficult to come back and kind of have a negative word to say about you on your end, because it's like, look, man, if you hired that guy on your own, the result would have been the same.
Right. It's all human. They're all.
Yeah.
Everyone's a human, right? And you can never. I mean, you can never really predict human behavior. To a certain degree, you can, but really no.
Well,
people do dumb stuff.
We heard that phrase from the philosopher Forrest Gump, right? Like,
Stupid is, stupid does.
Yeah.
It's like, but that guy you're not going to put in the job anyway. What about the personal sacrifice, right? So what have you had to give up in order to make this happen? Money was one thing, but what else?
Well, I think just whenever anybody becomes a business owner, that becomes kind of like
that's your life.
Really large part of your life. And there's a constant thing of like, I may want to do something, but if something's ready to be business-wise is ready to be done,
I gotta do this.
Then I have to stop and do whatever I have to do. And so I think just being open to sacrificing your own time.
Yeah.
Well, you have to. A big deal.
You have to. I mean, one of the guys I had here earlier, we were talking about that, and I said, I've heard this idea of the work-life balance, right? And there's a lot of people, especially on like the hustle side of things, they're like, no, there's no such thing as work-life balance. If you're working, the work gets all the thing. Because you right now are just starting. Me with the podcast, I mean, I've been doing this for a while, but it's still like in the beginning phase, right? I haven't been doing it for a year. So if you want to build something, you have to devote a lot of time to it, right? And so your social life or your home life, that is not going to get addressed as much, because you got to build this thing in order to have the other two things.
Absolutely.
And running the gym when I first got here, man, dude, I was 6 days a week. I never went out because I was always teaching, right, in the evenings. So I taught a Friday night class and then Saturday morning. So it's like I never went out on Friday. And then by Saturday, I was just like, I wanted to do nothing, because I'd literally been running around all week long.
Right.
So people were like, what are you doing? I'm like, so people were like, what do you do? I was like, this is my social life. I'm like, you guys on the mats right here, like, you are my like Friday night. Like, this is it. Like, I'm not going anywhere after this. I'm going home. I'm going to do laundry and like,
it does,
and
man.
drink water.
Whenever you get that, whenever you start your own business, man, it definitely becomes a huge part of who you are.
Well, and we have to be, I think we must be mindful of this too, right? Because it's like, yes, I'm a business owner, and yes, I do XYZ for a living, and I do a lot of stuff, but I think it's also somewhat dangerous to attach our whole identity to what we do, because we both have known people that like, I am this thing, right? And this thing is what my job is. And then they lose the job. for whatever reason, and they just fall apart.
Yeah.
Because their identity was wrapped up in this thing, and they have nothing else but that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I've seen it, right? I've seen it. So people ask me what I do, and I'm like, what answer do you want? Like, I'm a father. I'm other things besides a gym owner and a teacher and a podcaster and working in behavioral health. I do all those things, but that's not who I am. If you want to know this is how we figure out who somebody is. You sit and you talk, right?
Yeah.
So we know, you know me, I know you, but how did we know that? Well, it's because we sat and talked. We saw each other at all these different events. I mean, we got introduced by a mutual friend and whatnot, and then we became friends, and we were like, oh, we got all these interests together. And it's not just beer, even though beer is great, right? And Wilmington, the thing about Wilmington is like, when I first got here, there weren't that many microbreweries, right?
That's right.
And I'm like, throughout the years, it's like, they keep opening up all this stuff. And I'm like, is Wilmington trying to be like Asheville?
Right. When did you move to Wilmington?
2014, man.
Okay.
10 years, bro.
Yeah, I've been
10 years.
I got here in 2013.
So, where'd you come from?
Augusta, Georgia.
Augusta, Georgia. Man, why'd you leave Augusta for?
Because I wanted to live in Wilmington.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
So did you like spin a...
No, I kind of claimed to be from Greenville, North Carolina.
Okay.
So
Wilmington's not, it wasn't a foreign place to you then?
no, it was like a place I vacationed for
Oh, okay.
a while,
All right.
long time. So
Yeah, I had I didn't even know it was here.
where'd you come from?
The Triad area.
That's right.
Yeah, I was living in Kernersville, but I had some friends here, and I would come down to visit them, and I was like, this is a pretty good place, right? And dude, in 10 years, it's grown so much. That was why I figured I could make it here, because I see the growth potential, because so many people are coming in, and I'm like, dude, if I get in on the ground floor doing what I'm doing, because like nobody's doing it, I was like, I could probably carve out a niche for myself. And I have, but it was not easy.
It still ain't easy, you know? But
Once you kind of get used to that kind of grind, I don't want to say grind, because it's not always a grind, but it's this doing it for yourself, this entrepreneurial spirit, right? Once you kind of get used to that, it's like, dude, could you imagine yourself going back and working for like the man?
Oh yeah, no. No, that's the reason why I took all this risk upon myself.
Right.
Because that's the other thing about it, is it's a risky situation.
It is. Well, but it's, if we do it correctly, it should be calculated risk, because everything's a risk.
Absolutely
I mean, dude, you were in the
calculated.
military. You could have got shot, killed, stabbed, whatever, blown up. You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
like,
And it doesn't matter if you're like combat or not, because I was on, a naval air base in Sigonella, Italy, during the Bosnia thing, right?
Yeah.
So the big supply planes like not the C-5s, but C-130s and whatnot were coming in, and then sometimes the jet bombers were like flying in, refueling real fast, and then taking back off, and I didn't know that was going on. I was this dumb kid riding around in a like a freaking 2-ton dump truck from Vietnam, just we were racing around the base.
Oh yeah.
in dump
Didn't everyone
trucks.
do that?
No,
I think anybody in the military that had no.
It was just, well, we had the crew that I was with, right?
Yeah.
It was crazy because I got put with this crew that was, we had the old guys, right? And so all the young guys coming in, these old guys, they were like lifers, so they kind of knew how to play the system, and they were like, nah, you guys are fine. But it was just insane because we're rolling around like the streets of Sicily at on the base, but then we went outside too. And we're just like trying to pass each other in dump trucks on these roads that are not made for dump trucks.
Yeah,
So,
I may or may not have known people that drag race.
yeah, that's what
Patrol
happens.
cars.
Yeah, that's what happens in the military. Guess what? You put young dudes in heavy equipment and patrol cars and give us guns, and then put us on a ship for 12 hours. What do you think's gonna happen?
People become lawless. That's what happens.
And we're protecting you anyway. Do you have a customer impact story that kind of made a big difference for that customer?
Yeah.
Or on either side, either on the employee side where this person didn't have work and you gave him work and they're like, oh God, thank you. Or on the other side where you brought like the golden employee and the employer was like, oh, muchas gracias, because we needed that.
Yeah, well, so I'll reiterate my first client again, where just, watching the joy of this person, get good candidates.
Yeah.
And just his genuineness of like appreciating what I'm doing for him.
Right.
He
gets it.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then I had a candidate that didn't get picked up. I really liked the guy. He was a little off, man. He was like some Air Force guy. He spent like, he retired from the Air Force and he did like 26 years or something like that. And so he was like, a little bit of an older guy, but I really liked him.
Yeah.
And I was like, he was getting hired for like a diesel mechanic position.
Okay.
And he was like the guy that I knew could fix everything.
Right.
Like, he wasn't like the most polished candidate.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But based on his experience and like our conversations and all that stuff, like, I thought he was a really good candidate. I presented. He didn't get picked up. He didn't get hired.
Right.
But afterwards, like, the guy called me like a week later, and he's like, man, I really want to. You did a really good job, man. He's like, and it was like a failure for me because he didn't get hired. You know? But,
Right.
But and it was probably, maybe honestly, maybe I shouldn't have presented him to the client. But at the end of the day, he was just so thankful that like I tried to get him a job. Like, the guy had been like not working for a while, I guess, and he had like, because he was a mechanic. So his complaint to me was, somebody will hire me, I go in there and I fix all their stuff.
Yeah.
And then they let me go because everything's fixed. And I was thinking to myself, I'm thinking to myself, like, somebody needs to, and my client at this point is a great client. I think just based on the conversations I've had with them, like, they're like all about taking care of their employees. They're like, we've been in business for 60 years. We want to hire somebody that's going to stay here for the rest of their life, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
They're great benefit package, 401k, yearly 5% bonus pay, like all these great benefits and all this stuff, and then like a competitive salary. It was a little low, but competitive salary. But anyways, man, like, yeah, the guy called me and he was like, just so thankful. And he was like, if there's anything I can do for you. And I was like, dude, well, give me a 5-star review on my Google.
There you go.
Like, Google my business page,
Dude,
man.
Google.
And he did it. He didn't say anything, and I didn't actually expect him to write anything out.
Right, we just gave
But
him
he
5
went
stars.
up there and gave me 5 stars.
Hey,
and
that means something.
But it is cool.
That he went, that he did it. You know, that's a lot. It means a lot.
Yeah, no, it does, absolutely. And the other thing about it is, like, all I'm really just doing is getting people good jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I always give. Whenever I start an interview, I always give guys my quick introduction. My name's Ethan Bickley with the Blue Collar Recruiter. And I just say, companies hire me to go find highly skilled job candidates. And, I tell them, like, the 2 best things for you, man, is it doesn't cost you any money. And I'm just here to, like, hopefully get you a good job.
Right.
That's what I'm doing.
Right.
And that's kind of cool. Like, especially after transitioning from the military private security industry and having a difficult time finding a job and having to rewrite my resume, and all these like really good things that I did in that industry aren't really desired so much. Soft skills are, hard skills not so much.
Yeah.
Or, the soft skills are just desired, but not the hard skills.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I mean,
so,
the hard skill stuff, especially if you're an MP or you're security forces, it's like the only real way you can transition that is if you work in private security.
or a police officer.
Yeah, law enforcement or private security. And so it's like, have you read that book that Jocko wrote, Extreme Ownership?
I've read parts of it.
Okay, so Extreme Ownership was about, because he was the commander of the most decorated SEAL task force unit in the Iraq War, right?
Right.
Task Force Bruiser. But so he was like, okay, he got out and he was like, wow, what do we do now? And so he was like, I know. So he just basically was a consulting firm, but he kind of codified all the lessons that he learned on the battlefield and was like, here's how you apply this to business. And I was like, what a great idea. And Jocko is scary AF. I mean, he is one of the most intense, scary people on planet Earth, right? But he's got his crew in there teaching this stuff, right, to executives. But it's not the hard stuff. It's the soft skill stuff. It's the, communication between up and down the chain and whatnot, right?
Right.
And and I was like, what a great idea. And I don't know how he came to that, but that's, he was like, okay, he transitions down. He's like, okay, what do we do now? Boom, he does that, right?
Yeah.
And so I wonder, and you brought up, this guy, he was like a failure because he didn't get him a job. And so, we talk about failure. So what was that? What has there been a failure that you have now seen as a blessing in disguise? Or a failure at the time, you're like, man, this is terrible, or this is a failure. But then, further on, you're like, wait a second, there's a lesson that I take from that. Has there been one of those yet?
Yeah. Has there been a failure that I've learned as a lesson?
Yeah. Well, now you look at it and go, actually, that was kind of a blessing in disguise because that failure kind of led me to this other thing.
Yeah, I think, well, I had the potential client early on. This is my lesson learned, I guess, my big lesson learned, where he's like a buddy of mine, and he wanted me to like do full service recruiting for him, but he never signed my operating agreement. So, and like he had a preconceived notion of like what a recruiter is and this, that, and the other, and I think a lot of people have this notion that like recruiters are just constantly on the phone or something, and they're like trying to find clients or they're trying to find candidates. And maybe that's how I should be.
Right.
I don't know, but I'm taking a much more relaxed approach to this whole thing. But anyways, man, like I didn't have the guy sign my operating agreement because I was like, the guy's a buddy of mine, this thing, the other, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like calling me like every other day, and he's like, where are my candidates and this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, you got to sign my operating agreement.
Yeah.
For me to, I'm not even supposed to be working, really, unless somebody signs it, and generally speaking. So, and he still never signed it. He still hasn't signed it, like, to this day. So my point is, my lesson learned was, it's like, if you don't sign my agreement.
Yeah, I'm not working.
I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
I'm not working for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't understand why. I had another, so that was my big lesson learned there, was like, you can't, especially because when it's your own business, it's like you're on the line, dude.
And I think
the whole thing is on the line.
If what my problem with that is that I think a friend, like if he's supposed to be your buddy, would value your time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if he's asking you to kind of work, and he's calling you, and therefore he's taking your time, and now he's not calling you to develop a relationship, he's calling you to say, where's my stuff? And it's like, well, you haven't taken the time to sign the thing to kind of formalize there's an agreement that like this is, you know what I mean? And I that's a little disrespectful in my view, because if you're my friend, I'm going to value your time. If I make a misstep, I will apologize and I will say, I'll try to rectify that. Right. But you have to recognize that you made a misstep, right? And what it seems like is this guy is just, you're right. He doesn't. I don't think he understands what the value of the exchange is here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And so obviously, right, so clearly, right, don't do any work unless you're getting paid for it.
Right.
But the other part of that is, it's like, I don't want that person as my client.
Yeah.
Now it's like, because then I got to pressure somebody, I got to pressure a client to sign my agreement. Well, then what happens when it comes time to pay me after I've done my...
Right.
It's like, am I going to be just going to be chasing this?
Yeah, see. And there's kind of like, I guess the lesson.
Well, you've already learned. It's like kind of, not only are you sifting for good candidates, you also have to sift for good clients. Having said that, I've dealt with so many like shaky clients or not, so I kind of know, you start to develop that radar in your head,
And that's exactly what I was going to, that was like what I was going to kind of segue into, back to that whole thing of like, because if I decide to do work for a client that may not be a good client, I'm wasting time that could be done. So when you're like this, and especially business building, right?
Yeah.
Building your stuff, it's like you got to develop that skill to spend your time accordingly.
Yeah. Because you can make more money, you can acquire new clients, man, but you can't get that time wasted back.
Right.
It's just, it's too important. Yeah, I think it's a lesson that, but there's that line of like, when you're first starting out, unless you're bankrolled, man, Like if you have to hit the ground running, you have to start generating income, dude, you better figure it out fast. Otherwise, you're likely to go broke, you know? So having a big bankroll is a huge help, right? But if you don't have the big bankroll, getting clients, you know, as quickly as possible to get the income generation going, that's like the second best thing you can do. And then having them just come in all together. Like once you figure that out, well, then you're in business. You know, that's the difference. So, well, I just kind of gave you my thing, but we're talking about an emotional journey. That was my emotional journey. Have you had, like, what has it been? Like, so far, give us a moment where you were like on top of the world, and then one where you're just like at the bottom of the well.
So yeah, so 90 days in, that's when I was like, did I just waste $40,000? I was like losing sleep at night, and I was like, did I just waste $40,000 on this franchise? And because I hadn't generated any revenue, I was basically paying for my loans with loan money essentially, and so that was like, well, that was definitely. And then I talked to another franchisee out in like St. Louis, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's like normal." That's like
he's like, "That's what it is, man.
That's how it goes, dude." And he's like, "It'll pick up," and it did, you know. And now like, you know, so I don't know if I've experienced the top of the mountain thing yet. I don't know if I will. I feel pretty good right now because, you know, I got enough money in my business account to take a paycheck, and I got enough money in there to like, you know, at least run my stuff for the next 6 months, even with.
Well, that's a good feeling.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, I'm okay, but so I feel good now. But yeah, for a minute there, man, when it just seems like nothing is working, and you're still just trying to like build, you know, and I'm still building, and I don't even think that it's ever really gonna. I think for me, the way it's set for me, always like kind of having to be looking out for new clients.
Yeah, but well, that's the recruiter's, you know, that's the dilemma, right?
Yeah.
But I think if once you like create enough relationships in different sectors and different areas and different industries, I think that's the thing that should be built is like, you know, all the people who are going to be either wanting or they know the person. You know, they know, well, I know we're fine, but I know homie over here that owns this business. He's going to need some people, right? And that's kind of how it rolls. So, but again, it's like fishing with multiple poles.
Right.
You know, so you got to have lines in all over the place. And I think dude, think of it like intelligence work.
Of course.
You know, that's what it is. It's intelligence work. Yeah. It's just all the stuff that you learned as an MP, you can apply it right here. Man.
Yeah, and I'll say the other emotional low was I called this company and, you know, I was like, you guys are hiring for this, I think it was like an electrician position or something, like commercial electrician or something. And I called this guy and I'm like, yeah, like, I mean, you know, what, you know, how are you guys filling this position? And I ended up finally getting the like hiring manager, general manager on the phone or whatever. And he's like, man, I've had more recruiters call me for this job than I've had job applicants call me for this job. And I was like, and that's when I realized like, this is going to be an absolute struggle just because there's so many recruiters.
How many are in this town?
Like, I don't know. There are a lot. And like a lot of people have like I said, a lot of people have like internal recruiting staff, which is interesting because it's you know, because if I go to like a company's job page. It's on their website. You go down to the bottom, scroll down to the bottom, you click careers, you can see everything they're hiring for.
Right.
And I go on there, and they're like 30 job openings. Some of these openings have been posted for like 30 and 60 days.
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, you guys have an internal...
Your internal guy sucks.
Your internal people must be absolute garbage. If you got 10 recruiters or whatever. Yeah. And then you got jobs that haven't been filled in 60 or even more days, 90 days. And it does take a minute. I speak new a little bit, but it can take a minute. Like I get it because it is a difficult industry to recruit for just because there is a lack of candidates, a huge lack of candidates, right? Because what are the statistic is for every 3 people that leave the skilled trades industry, only 1 person enters. Right. So there's a huge deficiency there. Dude, so I get it. But at the same time, it's like, there's no way it can take you that long. If you, and they're not business owners. They're just straight up recruiters.
They're employees.
They're only
Yeah.
sourcing and recruiting. They're not like me, sourcing, recruiting, marketing,
Yeah.
all the things associated with
back-end
owning
stuff,
a business.
all the admin,
all that stuff as a one-man show, right? So for me, it just doesn't seem. It seems like they must suck.
If you only had to do that, right?
Right. If I only had to do that.
Yeah, that's it. That's your whole job. Dude, you know what it is? I'd be on the phone all day.
Right.
All day.
Yeah.
I mean, bro, like, anyway, we'll get into that later. What do you think so far has been the number one lesson that you have learned? Like the most, from when you started to today, it's the number one most important lesson that you have learned. Like if somebody is coming into this and you were like gonna mentor them, what would you like, okay, whatever anybody else says, you need to know this thing.
And I've already talked about them. The two big things, like be incredibly responsible with your business revenue. Mm-hmm. Like think about, like, I mean, like even for me, it's like, oh, I got 20 grand or if you got, let's say you open a bit, you're like, oh, I got 20 grand in there.
Yeah.
Well, you got to think ahead. Yeah. I got to think ahead for the next, what about if I have 2 months where like I don't generate any revenue?
Yeah.
Like I got to be able to like keep the lights on. I got to pay those loans. I got blah, blah, blah. So working capital, number one. Number two is I would say be selective with your clients. Be like time management, figuring out whatever that, like for me, what I should be doing, I'll say what I should be doing because it's not quite there yet, but
you can start today.
Well, you know, my mom's like, oh, I want to buy a house in Wilmington. So it's like for the past 3 days, like, well, now I got to do that. You know what I mean? But anyways, my point is...
we know people.
Well, I did, but I still have to make sure everything's okay. But my point is, like, Monday should be a lot of admin stuff, planning my social media posts, getting my email marketing.
That's what this is for.
Yeah.
This is for it. You're going to have tons of stuff.
Yeah. Planning social media posts, planning my email campaigns, doing that. Monday should be more of like an admin day. And also because most business owners don't want to take any sales calls, even though I don't really make sales calls. I'm just offering a service to somebody. But, you know, making those sales calls, that's Monday, they're busy. They don't want sales calls on Monday.
Right. Everybody's calling on Monday.
Right. So now it's like Tuesday morning, I send out the marketing email.
Yeah.
I should be doing sales calls Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then Thursdays and Fridays. And then as the weekend comes in is when I should be doing actual recruiting.
Yeah. Because
all the guys that I want to hire are
off.
Working jobs and they're off.
Yeah.
Right. So evenings and weekends, I should be sourcing and recruiting, and then. But it's for every business, it's different. You know what I mean? I think that for me in the industry that I am, who my clients are, Mondays are, for me, should be an admin day because everybody else is slam busy. Yeah, so on and so forth. It drives me crazy when people do that. When I hear stories about somebody like some business making a decision, they'll be like, "Oh, we don't like what you're doing, but you're the guy that's like creating all the revenue."
Yeah. It's like, well, you know,
Figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, what is something that goes on behind the scenes, if you can say, that is that most people wouldn't know about, but would find fascinating
or interesting? And there may be nothing. But
I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess my stuff's so transparent. I found it, well, I don't know. We do have like a really interesting little CRM we use that basically like I can post on like 100 job boards for free.
That's pretty neat, dude.
It's kind of interesting. It's kind of cool, man. That's our little secret sauce we have that kind of maybe hopefully sets us apart. I don't know, that's probably the only like interesting thing behind the scenes.
I think too, like something that I think is interesting is that, you know, it's certainly a behind the scenes thing when a guy who doesn't get the job calls you back and says, "Man, you did a great job." Right? That's something that stands out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like the intended result is for this guy to get hired.
He didn't. But he's still
not only does he call you back and he's like, "Dude, you did a great job." He's like, "Hey man, would you mind?"
Even though you didn't get the job,
"Would you mind doing this?" He's like, "Sure, 5 stars."
I guess that is pretty interesting that the guy who didn't get the job gave me a 5-star review.
And you know what though? But this is the
Like, that should be
the marketing thing. It's like, even if you don't get the job, I'm still going to take a job for you. But it's like, how many people can say that? How many people can say, I didn't get the guy the job, but he still gave me 5-star review?
so.
I think that it's a testament
To your personality and your people skills, right? If
That's not a soft skill, man. And that's not manipulation. I mean, dude,
that's
Oh,
all
yeah,
truth. You know
no,
what I'm
it-
saying?
that's all truth based. It's like
Absolutely.
He wouldn't have done that unless he believed that you were on his side,
Yeah.
and really looking out for him. And it's not like, hey, if something pops up, I know you're gonna, like, I know he's not done with yet because I know you. It's like
you still want to get that dude hired somewhere.
Well, he
You know?
got a job.
Did he? Okay, good.
Yeah, he
good.
got. Yeah, it's funny, man. That was part of our conversation too. Is he called me and told me that, and I was like, that's good. I'm happy.
Well,
That's
yeah.
the thing, right? That's the rewarding part about it. Like, back to that aspect of this whole thing is, like, it's great, man. Getting these guys set in a good position.
So,
Hopefully, at least.
what is the best piece of advice?
that you have been given from maybe your mentor or somebody else about maybe not this business, but just kind of business in general, and it could be specific to this.
Yeah, I would say the two big ones for me are the first thing you always want to do is start with a definition of what success looks like.
That's important.
That's a bit. I think that's something. So there's three actually. So I'll reiterate that. So all those two. Start with defining what success looks like. The other really interesting thing is that I learned was to narrow my focus to broaden my appeal.
Yeah.
So when you you don't have to go after everything.
Right. Well, everybody's not
Narrow the focus.
Yeah.
And when you have something kind of specialized to offer, that will broaden. More people will like that. And the third one, though, there was a third. I thought of a third one, and that's remaining coachable. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so hard in human behavior to, especially when you really think you're right, listening, like being able to stop yourself or being able to stop myself and saying, okay, just listen to what this person has to say for a minute. And like,
It's true, but I think the flip side to that coin is, seek wise counsel.
oh, of course.
Because
yeah.
everybody, how many people do you know that have been like,
oh, Ethan, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, and in your head you're like, dude, you don't know what
I'm doing? Like, you clearly have no
understanding of what I'm going through.
Right.
Else you wouldn't suggest these ridiculous things. It's like, I feel like that a lot of people,
What's it? Not Happy Gilmore. Billy Madison.
Yeah.
That dude is like, everything you just said was complete and utter nonsense, and there's
No one is a.
yeah, everyone in the room is now
dumber, yeah.
because of this. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. It's like,
I know what you mean, because like there's always like these guys that get out of the military and they're like, I want to be a consultant. And it's like, okay, that's great. So, but they're like, it's a commoditized industry. There are a million people that say they're consultants out there. And it's like, unless you've actually, if you don't have a track record of working for a business, moving it from
point A to point B.
point A to point B,
Yeah.
then you're not, you don't have you have to have something to show like why you're a good consultant other than just like, whatever you did in the military, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's got to be, you got to have some type of track record to show someone, and well, maybe, I don't know. Of course, maybe people just pay for consulting, and I don't know.
People do, but so if you've done, you know what? Leave a comment. Let's see what was your experience with that. Because me and Ethan want to know.
well, I want to know.
Yeah, because I'm coachable. Unlike my friend here, who clearly doesn't want to be coachable.
Can't tell me
So
nothing,
we'll
man.
listen. We'll read your comments and put them into practice.
So who has supported you the most on this particular journey here, and how have they influenced, because, I was going to say your success, but it is a success because you're in business, the lights are still on, you got clients, and you have fulfilled the contracts, as it were. So who's been the person that's been like the most helpful?
Probably my fiance. She's the one who's always supportive of everything I'm doing.
That's so cool whenever somebody says, like, my partner, my wife, my fiance, man, I really, that fills my heart with joy.
Thing is, the big benefits that she has is because we're so, intimate and close, like life-wise, then she gets to know about everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, but the big so what that allows her to be able to do is provide perspective with actually knowing the facts of the situation.
Yeah.
And then to her credit, what she does is she always tells me something that I don't think about.
Right.
So if you have someone in your life, it could be anybody. It could be a mentor, a friend, spouse, fiance, boyfriend, girl, whoever it is. If they know the intimate details of your life and they have the ability to provide a very valuable perspective, those are the two things that make that so good.
It is. I think it's a game changer. What do you think about the future, man? What do you see this in like 3 to 5 years?
Well,
Boats, baby. I want a boat.
Yeah, no, I don't. Well, I mean, the only reason I'm trying to make money right now is to have a family. So
yeah,
that's my motivating factor right now. I got a fiance, and that's what we want to do. So that's costs money. So that's the end goal there. But
Fantastic, dude.
I think that I'd like to get to a point where I can hire people.
Yeah.
I'd like to get big enough to have some people be able to do my recruiting.
Yeah.
Right? Hire a sourcer and a recruiter.
Yeah, hey, so
like
all you military recruiters coming out,
yeah. Give me a call. Yeah, for sure.
You gotta have a back. You gotta have some cred though, man. You gotta have some street cred.
If you're not a recruiter where I could go to a high school and the kids don't know your name, I'm not gonna hire you.
That's right. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, but I guess I don't know, man. I just want to see it all kind of just be able to let me live the lifestyle I want to live.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't even necessarily know. I say I want to hire people, but I'd be happy just paying the bills and.
Well, again, it goes back to what success is.
I should define success. That's right.
I mean,
one thing I'm interested in right now is potentially getting my pilot's license. But
that's different though, right?
So like I want to buy like a $5,000 plane.
Yeah.
You can buy planes used like a used aircraft.
Bro, did you so
for like $5 or $6 grand, like an ultralight?
Yeah. Let me know because I don't want to go through all the rigmarole getting a pilot's license, but I want to fly. And so for my thing was like I need to make friends with a pilot because I don't want to have to. I just want to go up and fly.
So just become your own pilot.
Well, but I don't want to have to do all of that stuff, right? The schooling and the money and the this and the that and all the
because there's a lot of rules to being a pilot, right? However,
years ago, one thing I do want, right? You'll know that I've got to where I want to get to whenever you come to my house and you see a Huey in the backyard. I want a Huey. I want a Huey from the Vietnam era Huey helicopter. That's what I want. Well, I don't know what they cost now, but like just years ago, I was looking them up. You can get a Huey for like $150,000. Like that's not that much money. I was like, that's a Huey for $150,000. I was like, dude, what if I'm like, bro, we're gonna go down to Key West. It's like, I'll pick you up. Like, what are you driving? You'll know it when you see it. I come in with a Huey.
Well, that's what. I want to do the pilot thing, just to fulfill like some excitement stuff or whatever. But on the other side of it, the cool thing is, and by the way, you have to learn how to fly a fixed wing aircraft before you can learn how to fly a rotary.
Right. I'm just gonna hire
just
a pilot. Right. I'm gonna get some old.
At least that's what
too.
I've heard. So. But you could fly. That was the idea. That's the cool thing about it.
Yeah.
It's like you can fly like anywhere you want to go.
Yeah, where do you want to go to? Oh, you know what? Let's eat lunch in Austin, Texas. There's a good barbecue joint there.
Just get in your plane and
yeah, it is. That is a whole different way of living. You know, instead of driving somewhere where you can be like, I will just fly there, man. That's an 8-hour drive. It's a 2-hour flight.
Exactly.
Let's just do it that way. We'll beat the traffic.
Right. It's the truth, man. That's actually what one of the guys was joking with me about when I was talking to him about that. So I don't know. I guess I want to get a plane. I guess I want to get an ultralight, fly around.
That is a noble cause, sir.
It'd be fun.
It's going to happen. So the last question here, the legacy. when it's all said and done and you walk away from the business, right? And you're like, you know what? Ethan retires, I'm out, right? You guys can have it. What do you want people to say about you? Or what would you hope they would say?
I mean, you know, of course, I just want people to say good things about me.
Right.
I don't know.
But what specifically? It's like, oh, that Ethan, he's a great pilot.
Man.
You hadn't thought about it, have you?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
What would I want people to say about me? I mean, I don't even know. Well, you know, because there's a big part of me that I've thought about lately is like selling the business and doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so, maybe, I guess, get to the point where I could do that. That'd be cool. But I don't know, man. I just want people to, make sure and take care of everybody. And
Yeah.
hopefully everyone has good things to say about me.
Well, it's, you know, a lot of people are like, you know, I just want him to say, hey, he was an honest guy. He did the job well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something like that. And you know, it can seem somewhat cliche, but it's really not, because I think the more simple that answer is, the easier it is to attain.
I think the better way for me to answer it is like, I'd rather just hope that I've lived the life that where I don't, like, nobody has, that's all everybody's going to say about me is,
Yeah.
you know, so I'd probably be more, I think I should be more focused on living it rather than,
Right.
Well, that's a good answer, man.
you know what I
It's a
mean?
good answer. I don't care. I'm just go.
Hunter S. Thompson,
I like his answer.
it
Wasn't an answer to his question, but he made a statement. It's like, you know, at the end of it all, you know, you should slide into the finish line late, beat up, but scars. You
Right.
know, like smoking a cigarette or something like that.
And somebody else said it, and I forget who said it. I'm sure somebody knows, but it's like,
You only get one life to live, but if you do it right, one is enough.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And it kind of like that's how I kind of want to live my life. It's like at the end of it, I'm hopefully, when I draw my last breath, I could say, no regrets, right?
Right.
And that's what I want to say. So far, no, I've got a few regrets.
Of
right?
course, yeah.
everybody's got a few, but like, you know, I want to get there and be like, you know what, I did everything that I wanted to do, right? I fulfilled all my obligations.
I did all the fun stuff I wanted to do, did all the crazy, dangerous stuff I wanted to do. It's like, yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right to go now. There's just nothing else that I really want to
Try to accomplish, you know?
Right.
And I'm 120, so I don't care.
I met this dude. Well, I didn't meet him. He was, when I was younger, I was doing that other job and I was doing the install work.
This old guy, his name was Bob. Everybody called him Old Bob. He was old. He was like, I think he was 99, something
Yeah.
like that.
Still went to work every day.
Right.
Right? Wore, you know, button up.
Shirt, slacks, you know.
And I mean, he was pretty old. And I get to talking to him. And, you know, I was just kind of, you know, we're just sitting there chit-chatting about whatever. And he says, man, he's like, I fought in 2 wars. Right? He was in like World War II in Korea, something like that. He's like, I've been married, you know, raised my kids, put my kids through college, put their kids through college. It's like I've owned houses, sold houses, owned a business, sold the business. It's like I've been everywhere in the world I ever wanted to go, done everything I ever wanted to do. And he just looks at me and goes, I think I'm done. And 2 weeks later, dude was dead.
Dang.
And and it's not like he was unhealthy. He wasn't like a decrepit old man. This dude was up and about, you know, he was still lifting boxes and moving stuff. I mean, he just was like, I think I'm done. He had lived everything he ever wanted to do. And so he was like, the only thing I haven't done is die. You know? It's like 2 weeks later, he's gone, right? I go in there and I was like, where's Bob at? They're like, man, Bob died. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I was upset because I was like, I wanted to talk to that dude about that feeling, you know? Like, I never imagined myself getting so bored with life that death becomes the exciting thing, you know? But he was like bored.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like he wasn't regretful. There was no sadness or sorrow. He was just like, I'm just done. You know, I'm like, I never had met anybody like that, you know, who just was like, yeah, I'm ready. I don't care. I'm not scared. Just, you know, I was like, I'm thinking to myself, you know, because he's a 2-time war veteran, right? And I was like, Bob, man,
right? He just went at it face first, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, when it's my time to go, I hope I go like Bob, man. It's like, bring it on, you know. I was like, dang, blows my mind to this day. Never met anybody like that. Now I've met people that don't care about themselves, so they don't care.
Right,
you know?
right.
We all know those people who are just so reckless and risky because they hate themselves, you know, and so they don't really care if they die or not anyway. But that's different.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, totally different.
Like, because they know they usually don't make it past 40. Because they'd say, because you meet them in the military, right? That's why they're there, right? And so they say somehow survive combat. And what happens when they get home? They kill themselves drinking and driving.
Right.
You know, or something like that. You know, they're just in the wrong place at the wrong time and get shot. Right?
Yeah.
It's like this dude survived combat, comes home and gets shot by a jealous dude, some chick he's cheating on with or something like that.
Yeah, a buddy of mine told me a story about they got back from Afghanistan and like this dude jumped off the back of an LMTV, like a big truck, and like he broke his back and died. Like he just escaped death like 6 times.
Yeah.
Jumped off the back of a truck and like it severed like a vertebrae and like he was like dead or something.
And why did he do that?
Well, who knows? Why do we?
Yeah. Why did we do? Why did we race?
Jumped off the back of a truck, man.
Why did we race?
I mean, he was just unloading a truck.
Yeah.
And just jumped off the back of a truck.
Okay.
I mean, it's totally random and just.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, dude, my uncle. This is way back in the second Iraq thing. Like, was that Desert Shield?
Yeah.
There was Desert Storm, then Desert Shield. So
Yeah,
he was in the first one. So Desert Storm, he was in the first one. He was in Iraq, and they were like taking Iraqi prisoners, and a lot of them were just surrendering on site, right? And so, so I don't know if they got into any heavy duty like firefights, but so he goes to Iraq, he does a combat tour in Iraq, comes back, and guy gets killed driving on the road because I think he was driving, either his phone fell to the floor or something, and he went like that to go reach for it, and truck goes off the road, rolls over the cliffs, and he gets killed that way. And it's like, it blows your mind, right? Because it's like, here's these guys who are literally survived one of the most dangerous jobs ever.
Yeah.
You know, combat, bullets, mortars, bombs, all this kind of stuff. And comes home and he dies in a freak car accident, you know, and it's like, that blew my mind. I was younger for that. That hit me pretty hard.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it makes me, it upset me because I was like, this dude's a warrior, and that is not a warrior's way to go.
Yeah.
And it really, I was upset for a couple years after that, you know, because I'm like, I think he got robbed.
Right.
You know. Anyway, I want him to have the warrior stuff. But anyway, so well, bro, did you have fun?
Oh, it was great.
And we learned some stuff. And we have another podcast, so check out the other podcast where we'll be back again talking about other stuff, right? And which will be, you know, some more fun stuff. But brother, it's good to have you.
You too. Good to see you, man.
Good
Thank
luck,
you,
man. And we will come back again. And you know, hey, if you're looking to fill some spots, call Ethan. So give him so it's the Blue Collar Recruiter. Is there a website?
Yeah, the Blue Collar Recruiter, ILM.com.
And is there a phone number?
Yes, please. 910-778-1066.
Fantastic. So yeah, if you're looking to fill some spots, call my man, or you can do it yourself. But hey, you know, that's another. You know, why would you do that?
If your recruiting efforts or have you singing the blues, call me.
Yes.
Blue Collar Recruiter.
Fantastic. I love it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. We'll catch you next time on the Business Builder Podcast.